Hi guys, and welcome to another Fool of the Week. This week's Fool is our old friend Nigel Farage. So the Reform UK MP is angry, very angry, that Keir Starmer and Labour have signed up to dynamic alignment, which means that when the EU increases its standards, the UK follows suit. But Nigel wants you to get sick, it seems. Now that may seem a bit hyperbolic, but that's exactly what he's been ranting about here. You see, the EU is sort of phasing out a flavour that appears in Smoky bacon crisps. Why? To pander to Muslims? To make everyone vegan? Or is it because the EU is anti-fun? No, the reason is something slightly different. Something Nigel pretends not to understand.
The EU reset that Starmer has done, that has harmonised us with EU food rules, means your traditional smoky bacon crisps can no longer be manufactured in this country. The recipe has got to change. Now, I said that in a slightly sarcastic way, but Tom Pursglove just goes to show we will now have to follow all EU rules as they come in on food, drink, shellfish, you name it.
Madness. And we should have seized those opportunities. I feel that the government has really squandered some of that opportunity to go our own way.
What, the last
to get
government?
after some of those emerging markets that you and I talked about a lot in the referendum, and
Yep.
clearly where the future global growth is. And it's a great product. People want to buy smoky bacon crisps. They should be available to do it.
There we are, Lloyd. You've sold out smoky bacon crisps for your party. It's a disgrace.
Well, let's see what the small print of this is. I suspect it will be one particular carcinogen that
it's a recipe change.
They're not happy with. And generally, these safety rules have benefited us. If I can still get my smoky bacon quaver things or those scampi crisps that I particularly like in the pub with a pint, I'll be happy. And I suspect they will continue, just like the Euro sausage and the British sausage, again, of a
We're
famous...
back to, yes, Prime Minister.
It comes around, doesn't it? They're all true, those
But you know
stories.
what? The more we harmonise with the EU, the more difficult it is to do food trade with the rest of the world.
No, because most of the rules don't preclude things. They don't require things to be in, and most of the rest of the world will allow you to trade with something that has it taken away. They just wouldn't allow you to trade with something that's got it in.
Well said, well said. Look, so what are we talking about here? We're talking about, in the case of smoky bacon crisps, but it applies to other food as well. It's a process to create the flavour. And as a byproduct of the process to produce the smoky bacon flavour, you end up with a thing called a PAH, which is a polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon, which some studies point to it being carcinogenic, which can cause cancer. So what the EU is doing is it's saying, look, we have this research. It points to this product or this byproduct being carcinogenic. We should phase it out. Now, it's not going to disappear overnight. It's going to take a number of years. But the EU is saying, look, for food safety, we want to have high food safety standards. We need to phase out this particular product. Now, if somebody wants to continue to produce smoky bacon crisps, they can, but they must exclude this product. So they must find an alternative. And there are probably alternatives. I'm sure some scientists can come up with alternatives to this particular flavour. Maybe they were using this flavour because it was cheap, or maybe it was the only one they could discover, the only one available. Well, they can find other ones now if they want to continue to sell this product. But as the Labour guy said here, look, if you're taking something out, it's not a problem to trade. The problem is when it comes to trade is if you're including something that is banned in other jurisdictions. So by making the food safer, indirectly, this is actually helping British trade, because if other countries around the world decided to ban this and the EU hadn't banned it and the UK hadn't banned it, then it'd be more difficult to sell that product. But because the EU is removing this particular compound or phasing it out, then it makes it easier actually for UK exporters to sell their product, because it would meet the standards. It wouldn't be blocked by the conditions other countries would have on borrowing this particular compound. So this is actually a win. This is a good thing for Britain. But of course, Nigel Farage is complaining about smoky bacon crisps. Oh, we're not going to be able to get them anymore. Yes, you will be able to get them if the companies can find an alternative to this particular compound. But remember, dynamic alignment will reduce the friction between the UK or GB and the EU, reduce the friction between GB and the single market. And that's a good thing. It will reduce the cost of trade. Nigel Farage had told small business owners before the referendum, of course, that nothing would change, or that trade would actually be better if the UK left the European Union. And of course, that was all completely false. Was it a lie, or was he just ignorant? I'll leave that up to you. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.